My name is Marshall Dawson. I've been in the food, beer, and wine industry for over 30 years. Most recently, I was the global brand director for Bombay, Sapphire, and Goose. I ran those brands globally. I've actually done consulting for more than 20 of the top 100 spirit brands throughout my career. And I just love the industry. I love the people, I love the sociability, I love drinking, and I love food and wine and the Epicurean lifestyle. There's a few trends that are really hitting the on-premise now that I find to be dynamic. One is the trend of either low alc or no alc in some cases. But certainly what we're seeing with that is we're seeing wine cocktails, we're seeing people drinking a lot of sparkling wine. In addition to that, we've been talking about this for years, but the trend towards drinking better, less but better. So people, it's interesting, there used to be this term in the trade called sessionability, which has actually become a consumer trend, which is interesting to watch it go from being a trade trend to a consumer trend and have people say, oh, this is a sessionable beverage. Translated as, I can drink this for a while, I can drink it during day drinking, brunches, that type of thing, and I still stay, reasonable and I don't go too far with my alcohol. Well, Tim just said brosé all day, which made me laugh. Rosé all day is actually an element of that sessionability and the day drinking and lower alc. I, for one, can't personally rosé all day, so later we'll talk about something that I drink instead of rosé all day. So what is interesting in our industry is, especially for the on-premise, you've got beer and wine licenses. So in California, those are called Type 41, or full licenses where you can sell spirits. And in California, those are called 47s. Not only is the growth for 41s outstripping that of 47s simply because of the amount of 47s that a municipality is willing to have, they're also much more expensive to run 47s. What's interesting is the 41s, or the beer and wine only licenses, fit consumer trends perfectly well, both from a perspective of people want to eat and drink at the same time, and they also, again, going back to that, they want sparkling, they want wine cocktails, they want something that's sessionable. So in California, for example, there are well over 27,000 beer and wine only licenses, or those 41s, where there's only about 16,000 47. So there's nearly double. In a city like San Francisco, there's actually more than double beer and wine licenses versus the full bar license. So it's been interesting for the wine buyers and folks that are buying for beer and wine only, or those 41s in California, is the trends that we talked about earlier with low alc and sessionability. Consumers go in and they demand opportunity for different drinks. They want choice. They want things like beer and wine cocktails, even if they're very simple, even if they're things like spritzes, which are very popular right now. And so the buyers in those accounts, the trained sommeliers, the general managers, I think they really need to keep an open mind about what that wine program might look like and what sort of things you might be adding to give to your consumers so that they're happy and enjoying the experience at your account. Yeah, and so the beverage directors, especially in those beer and wine accounts or the 41s, I think they need to navigate it by, number one, keeping an eye on what's going on out there, but also what's available. There have been a large amount of growth of different products that fit that, and even things like ciders and beers or certain aperitifs that are wine-based, that type of thing, that you can actually use for those type of menus, and again, to offer your consumer something different. Well, about 5 years ago, not only did I, along with my business partner, Roger Morrison, see the trends of what was going on in the industry, but we also loved the idea of the European aperitifs, which obviously you'll be understanding of if you've ever traveled to Europe or experienced those things. And so we took a look at the marketplace and what was going on, and also what we wanted. We wanted something that we would consider a more California-style aperitif, a lighter, brighter alternative. And so we created a brand and a product called Jardesca California Aperitiva. And Jardesca is a wine-based aperitif, so it's legally wine, But we blend 3 California wines with a grape spirit that we've distilled with 10 botanicals, and it becomes a bright, light, refreshing aperitif, as opposed to maybe some of the stronger, either more bitter or more sweet aperitifs in Europe. Yeah, what's interesting when we use the term aperitif now is, what does that mean for American consumers? And what does it mean for your program? So when we first came out, we even talked about it as an aperitif, meaning a pre-dinner drink, something very simple. Well, in the United States, the aperitif moment translates as brunches, it translates as day drinking, it translates as just what we call happy hour, but in Europe they're eating tapas and having an aperitif. And so it's slightly different. And so from a perspective of Jardesca, in the case of my brand, yes, some people will drink it as a lighter, brighter aperitif. More commonly, what they're doing is drinking it as a spritz, as an aperitif with Prosecco, or even some lower alc cocktails. So what we've seen is, even mixing it with spirits, but a more refreshing and a lighter cocktail, that low alc style. So depending on what you're blending Jardesca with, it fits the beer and wine, right? So if you add a high proof, obviously it doesn't work. But if you're dealing with other wines, or even I've had people do things with ciders, it's completely legal to serve that in a beer and wine account, or as we say in California, those 41s. So as entrepreneurs and sort of scaling, we have taken a very measured approach in our 3-tier distribution, right? So where we sell to distributors and then on to the retailer, the bars and restaurants. We're available in California. We're also available in Texas and Florida and actually Nevada. But again, we've taken a measured approach. What's interesting about Jardesca, because it's legally wine, is you can actually sell it directly to consumers in many states. And that's been an interesting evolution of the marketplace as well. Yeah, what's fun about that aperitif moment is that it naturally lends itself to cheese, charcuterie, small plates, tapas, and those type of dishes that you're seeing much more of in the US marketplace. So you see a lot of these, either whether they're fresh Italian or whether they're even a lot of the brew pubs that have that license serve small food plates. And so Jardesca works very well with things like pre-dinner charcuterie plates, with small plates, or for that moment before you're either moving on to the entree, or maybe just having what we like to call appy hour, which is appetizers and aperitifs. So Jardesca, very quickly, if you get a 6-pack of Jardesca, is at $22 a bottle, and so and if you go to 2 6-packs, it goes to $20 a bottle. So if we're looking at consumer prices, it's not uncommon to see it at $12 to $14 in something like a spritz cocktail, which is not an unreasonable price in most beverage lists or cocktails nowadays. So one of the fun things about Jardesca for us is because it's legally a fortified wine, so it's still wine, but it has that grape spirit in it. It allows Jardesca to last much longer than typical wine. In fact, we laughed, you don't need a Coravin, you don't need to take the air out. It'll easily last 3 to 4 weeks after opening. We prefer that you refrigerate it, but it's very helpful from a profit perspective for beer and wine accounts because there's no waste. So we have 2 products. We have Jardesca California Aperitiva, which is our white. That was the first product we ever brought out. And again, that's a blend of 3 California white wines, with the heart of that wine blend being a Viognier. Separately, we distill this beautiful grape eau de vie with 10 botanicals, with the 3 key botanicals being pink grapefruit, pink peppercorn, and bay leaf. And then we blend that back with the wine. So it is a beautifully refreshing and delicious white aperitif that lends itself great to things like spritzes. The Jardesca California Spritz is 3 parts Jardesca, 2 parts Prosecco, and then your favorite garnish combination. Or even things like low alc mules with ginger beer. We were out with the Jardesca California Aperitiva, our white version, for a couple of years, and we had people continuously ask us why we didn't have a red. And so we said, well, if we were going to create a red version, what would that look like for us and still be true to our house style? So we created our Jardesca California Red Aperitif That is also a blend of 3 California red wines, the heart of it being a Zinfandel. We make it the same way. We separately distill a grape eau de vie with 10 botanicals, with the 3 key botanicals being ginger, tangerine, and cardamom. And so you get, again, a richer version and a little bit more depth to it than the white. It's really interesting, having been in this industry for a long time and working all kinds of different brands. I launched brands, I worked on huge brands that were global brands. It is something very, very different to create your own product and brand and take it to market. And all I will say is it is, I always like to say the most important strategy is wash, rinse, repeat, which means that you're doing the things over and over and over. It's unbelievable how long it takes to gain traction, even with something that's on trend and popular. And so the most important are really sips on lips, as we like to say, right? It's getting that product for people to try it because it is so different with Jardesca versus other products. It's also things like features in the right restaurants. We always said you build brands in the on-premise in this industry. I will tell you, as launching a new product that was very different, that is unquestionably the case. You need a lot of very targeted on-premise distribution with key menu placements and people that love it in the on-premise. So that's been another key tactic. And then, of course, you always have to look at what's happened with social media and the fact that people love to see what's going on with your brand. We're very much an experiential product and brand, and so we're very fresh and delicious in California lifestyle. And so that experience element, whether we're doing the tastings or whether we're being featured in a menu or on social media, is very important to us, is that California lifestyle experience. What's interesting for us on distribution is you've got obviously what kind of distributor you want to be with, which is one piece of distribution. And as everyone knows, there are large distributors, there are smaller distributors. And I will say with a little bit of bias that for you to be able to really start something from the ground up, you almost have to start with a small to medium distributor so that you have touches on the product and people that really can understand it. From a account distribution perspective, which is equally important and interesting, it's very much a focus area. So for us, you need people that are, it's not that we work, from an account perspective on a distribution basis, obviously people traditionally break it into on and off premise. From an off premise perspective, you need those key independents that truly love new products and are willing to help you sell them to consumers, as well as things like fresh grocers, because they fit California's, Jardesca's California style. From an on-premise perspective, what's interesting to me is we really, as we talked about all the different trends, hit those beer and wine licenses and provide something that's very unique and different. And people just fall in love with it, both the buyers and the consumers when they go in. We've also found a lot of success with the brunch moment in full bars, or with that low alc trend for, yes, full bar accounts, but the lower alc martinis and type things. And then finally, hotels love Jardesca. So the poolside spritz idea, the welcome drinks, or even things like where people run wine hours, they like to do something very different rather than your typical wine, using something like a Jardesca with a spritz or a low alc wine cocktail. So we do all kinds of different merchandising for accounts, whether it be on-premise or off-premise. We do a lot of POS for off-premise, including racks and things like that help us. But specifically for the on-premise, and I think a lot of your audience, what we do mostly is we create what the accounts need, and we can do that because we're nimble and we're entrepreneurial. So we do things like how you make the drinks cards to help train your folks. We do, obviously, the usual staff trainings and that type of thing. We don't do a lot of POS items just because I think a lot of people do those, and also they can really add up. But we're high touch, and we're very much, personal relationships and entrepreneurial and connectivity with that, both the buyer and the staff, so them really getting to understand Jardesca and how to use it and what value it adds to their program. So we have the usual suspects from a digital perspective. We have our own website. And as I mentioned, you can actually legally buy Jardesca in many, many states because we're wine. That has all kinds of different recipes and talks about, why we founded Jardesca and frankly our manifesto, what we believe in. And then of course we're on Instagram as one of our favorite social platforms just because it's so related to that experience and visual, and Jardesca is so visual. So I encourage people to follow us there. Not only do you see what other accounts get to do, but it really gives you an idea of what Jardesca is like and how to use it. My name is Marshall, and thank you for tuning in to SommelierBusiness.com.